Darius, DEEZLE,
Yep.
American record producer, rapper, and singer, and mentee of
Yep.
Mr.
He
Harrison.
can give you his resume real quick and then you can ask questions. You want to run it down, Diesel?
Okay, sure. I'm a three-time Grammy winner. I've like 10-time ASCAP award winner, for pop and rhythm and soul awards, and uh writer, artist, producer, um, all around cool guy. No, and a very grateful mentee of the great Donald Harrison, who has who's changed my life in so many ways and made me better in so many ways just from being around, let alone the stuff he said and taught me. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Are you guys related at all?
Somewhere.
Yeah.
I just want to add this to Darius's resume because I think it's really important that he has produced songs that have over 1 billion streams on them, and he has produced songs that are multi-platinum as well, the physical copies. So, especially in these times, if you know anything about the music industry, you know how difficult that is. So he deserves a pat on the back, 2 thumbs up, and a
Thank you.
special.
Thank you.
Two. But
Thank you.
Darius, you're a New Orleans boy. Where, how, and why did music come into your soul and wanting to pursue as a career?
When I was 5 years old, my favorite uncle used to babysit us when my parents had to go work. We were uptown in Hartford, and he was a bass player, and he would have to practice during the day because he had his gigs at night, and we were toddlers. So during the summer we'd be home at my grandmother's house with him, and he'd sit me and my cousin on the edge of the bed so he can practice, but he could keep an eye on us. And he would take a hit of his very fragrant smelling cigarette, and then he would blow it in our faces and say, "Y'all sit right here." And we go, "Okay." And then he'd go across the room and practice. And at that time, this was probably 79. Another One Bites the Dust was like one of the biggest records on the radio. And he was standing across the room and with his bass and his joint in his mouth and sunshades on and his jewelry and beads and stuff, and played don't don't don't. And I would look at him and I was like, man, this is the coolest dude ever. I'm high. I'm listening to music. So when I realized that he was the coolest dude ever, I was like, you know what? That's what I want to be when I grow up. So then, for another like 4-year hiatus, uh, until I was 9, I knew I wanted to play music, but I didn't know how that was going to happen, because I didn't know about buying instruments or going to music stores or nothing like that. So one day at school, a man with a trumpet in his hand walked in our class. He was dressed in a pristine all white outfit, white suit, white shirt, white tie, white shoes, and he had white slick back hair that curled up at the back, and he had a mustache like Stromboli. And he said, "If you want to play music, raise your hand." And my hand flew up immediately. And then some other people's hands flew up, and he said, "Okay, y'all follow me." And initially, I was like, you know, I was like, I don't know where we following this man to, but I'm going because he's talking my language, and we end up walking across the schoolyard through a like a grove of of shrubs that we weren't supposed to go past. And lo and behold, there was a building back there. There was a house type of building, and we walked in, and it was full of instruments.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, this is it. It's happening. And he goes through the instruments. Somebody played the snare drum, blah, blah, blah. He said, who wants to play this? Somebody raised their hand. Then somebody else played the trumpet. He said, who wants to play this? Somebody else raised their hand. And then they finally got to the alto saxophone. And when when the guy played the saxophone, the band teacher said, who wants to play this? And I immediately raised my hand. And it was because I had always loved the sound of Wine Light by Grover Washington. So I went home and asked my dad to buy me a saxophone. I showed him my permission slip, and he was like, no, I'm not buying you a saxophone. And I was like, man, I don't know how I'm gonna get the saxophone, but I'm gonna need the saxophone. So the next day, I come back, I asked my dad, hey, Dad, I know you told me no yesterday, but can you buy me a saxophone? He said no, and if you ask me again, I'm gonna beat your ass. So I said, all right. I went to school. They were like, who has their permission slips from their parents, blah, blah, blah. And everybody's turning in their permission slips, and I just got my blank, unfilled permission slip in my hand. And I go back home, and the whole time I'm at school, I'm like, I'm gonna just have to take this butt kicking because I'm not gonna stop asking him for my saxophone. And I went home and asked him again, and he screamed at me. And my dad was like, kind of like James Evans, like you didn't play with him. So he goes, didn't I tell you not to ask me for a saxophone again? And he starts reaching for his belt. He's like, I'm telling you, don't forget about the saxophone. Now, this went on for 2 weeks after that. And I was just like, you're just going to have to beat me up because I want my saxophone. So one day, after 2 weeks, it's Saturday. I just finished cutting the yard. And my dad said, get dressed. So I'm like, it's like, man, I don't really want to go nowhere with this dude. He made me cut this grass at 7 in the morning. It's wet grass at 7 in the morning. I want to play my Nintendo. So we get dressed. Him, my mom, and I, we go to, we get in the car, and all of a sudden we pull up at this place. And as we walking in, it was a music store. And, my dad tells the guy, what's the best saxophone you got for a student? So the guy shows us the Selmer. It was a student horn, but it was a Selmer. I can't remember which model. And my dad says, okay, cool. I think it was like $600 at the time, $600 or $700.
Some money.
In 1984. Yeah, 1984. And we buy my horn, and I was shocked, but once I got my horn, like I never stopped practicing. I practiced every day. I learned as much as I could learn. I learned all different types of music, and we would figure out songs on the radio. And one of my friends, his name is Clarence Johnson. He's a saxophonist also. When we were in elementary school, he was able to hear songs and write the songs. He could chart songs. Like he would draw the staffs and chart the songs just from hearing them. So we would practice playing songs from the radio and stuff like that. So it was an interesting journey. But that's how I got started in music. And then, you know, I played saxophone for 13 years and was drum major for St. Augustine High School. And we played the Super Bowl halftime show in '91. And, you know, a bunch of other stuff, Jazz Fest for, you know, like 4 or 5 years. And once I graduated, I went to Xavier to study pre-med because you can't make good money as a musician, according to, you know, some families. And I was like, yeah, I guess I'll go be a doctor. Because I knew I wanted to make at least $500,000 a year. So I was like, what professions are going to do that? Lawyer, doctor. That's the perspective that we had here growing up. And I realized after 2 years that it wasn't for me. Like pre-med wasn't for me. So I went to University of New Orleans and, you know, majored in classical voice. So I was an opera singer, and some of my teachers were Harold Baptiste, Ellis Marcellus, um, Dr. Valerie Francis, who was my vocal teacher, and yeah, so we we went through those 2 years together. She wanted me to go to the Metropolitan Opera competition because she was like, "You could be the next great bass singer." I was like, "You know what? I don't really want to do that. I want to make records." So I got all my credits, and you know, and to graduate, but I was just like, I'm going in the studio. Like I don't want to sing opera. I want to make records. I want to make hit records. And one day in my retail job, a guy walks in. He has like this really just stoic look on his face, and he looked like he wasn't very friendly. Meanwhile, his girlfriend, who I was selling clothes to, she was bubbly and happy. And as I was ringing them up, she goes to my friend, to my coworker, she goes, "Oh yeah, I go to UNO." And when she said that, I was like, "Oh, you go to UNO? I go to UNO. I never see you." And she was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a business major." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'm a music major. I'm always in the music building." So the guy with the mean face goes, "Oh, I play music too. I have a recording studio." And I said, "Really?" So I, being an audiophile and a gearhead and a nerd, I had been reading Mix Magazine and studying what gear was what and what people used on certain albums because I always liked the way certain records sounded more than others, and I wanted to know what was the reason for that. So I asked him about certain equipment. I was like, "Do you have this? You know, do you have 1176? Do you have an LA2A?" He was like, "Yeah, I have all that." And I asked him, I said, "Can I come and intern at your studio?" He was like, "Yeah." I said, "Cool." He was like, "When you want to start?" I said, "Tonight."
That's
As
always the
soon as I
right
get off
answer.
work, I want to start. He was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Well, tonight I don't have a session, but tomorrow you can come." And I was there bright and early the next day. And when I walked in, I was like, "Yeah, this is it." So fast forwarding to about maybe about 7, 8 months later, he calls me because there was a session coming in, and he was like, "Hey, there's a session at such and such time. You want to do it? And I was like, yeah. I was like, why don't you want to do it? He was like, because my girlfriend wants me to spend time with her, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, who is it? I was thinking it was somebody that it was like, do I really want to do this session? But it really was about his girlfriend. So he tells me it's a guy named Donald Harrison. And I was like, you sure you don't want to do that session? I was like, what's wrong with you? So he was like, nah, man, my girl, she's mad with me. I really need to spend some time with her. And I was like, bro, I'm gonna ask you one more time. You sure you don't want to do this session? Do you know who that is? he was like, yeah, I know who it is, but it's like, my old lady. So I was like, okay, great. I'm gonna do this session. So I do the session. I go to the studio. I'm waiting on Donald. He walks in, and we start working. And he goes, "Man, you really got my horn sounding good." And I was like, "Thank you." I used the microphone that they used when people started recording it, because it was a RCA 77, the one that looks like a pill. Um, and at the end of that session, Donald looked at me. He was like, "You my new guy." And I was like, "All right." I didn't know what that meant, or the impact that it would have. But I was happy that I did the session, because I knew who Donald was, and I was at that point a former saxophone player. And yeah, and then the rest was history. We were off to the races, and me learning a wealth of knowledge and experiencing, making records with so many different people and being on stage with so many different people because of Donald, and him telling me throw away my old whack drum machine and get an MPC. So yeah, that's the first part.
Yeah, that's some first part, I'll tell you that. Yeah, God almighty. Well, look, you were tenacious. You're a bull, man. No one telling you, even your dad, you definitely wanted music, and you have. I'm sure your family's still with you. Your dad, mom, still with you. They know
My
how
dad passed when I was in bio pre-med.
uh,
My dad passed when I was in bio pre-med. So as I was making that transition from uh, high school to college, my freshman year of college, my dad passed, but my mom's still alive. And she, a funny story, when I won my Grammys, because my family was about school, and like school was the way to have success, and education was the way to have success. So I won my Grammys, and my my mom calls me, and she says, "Oh, your little brother, he called me." Now my little brother is a mathematician, right? And he's a math genius. He's an actuary, so his aptitude for mathematical and numbers is through the roof. So my mom calls me. She goes, "Hey, your brother called me. He said, he told me you won some awards." Now, in her defense, she's used to me winning awards, because like everything music related that I did, if it had anything to do with like, you know any kind of competition or something, I would always get first place. I was always first chair in the symphonic bands and stuff in the Louisiana Music Educators, which is LMEA competitions. I would always get first place as a saxophonist. So she's used to me winning awards, but she goes, "Yeah, your little brother told me you won some awards." I said, Mom, you know that TV show you watched yesterday for 4 hours? I was on there. That's what I won. I
Uh,
won. I won 3 rings in my Super Bowl.
Congratulations.
She was like, "Oh," she was like, "Oh, okay. When you gonna get a job?"
Some of the superstars that you've now, moved towards, or that they come to you because they've heard about you, they know you. Was there one superstar, like, well, that was Lil Wayne or something? Who do you feel really helped you? They're sort of a cliquey group themselves, right? They want to get the best of the best to work with them. Uh, but they're not superstars when they start, right? They become superstars.
Well, I feel like stars are born. They're not made. So the first person who helped me was Donald. But moving into what he taught me prepared me to be able to work with those cats, because when I got that phone call, I wasn't expecting it, and something very pertinent that Donald had told me. He's, he said he saw me one day in my studio, and I was calling, trying to drum up business, because that was what I had been shown by the person who owned the studio that I was working in. So when I had my own studio, I would call people and be like, "Hey, you want to come to a session?" Blah blah blah, this and that. And Donald saw me calling people back to back, and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I need to make some money." And he said, "Man, don't call people like that." He said, "Get up every day, do your work, do it to the best of your ability, and when you're ready, they will call you."
Wow.
So as much as I needed a few $100 that day, I took his advice and I worked more diligently on my craft. And one day I got a call from Slim from Cash Money, and I thought it was a joke at first, because my wife at the time answered the phone and she said, it's Slim from Cash Money. He wants to talk to you." And I was like, "Tell whoever that is to stop playing on my phone and call me when they're serious about business," and hang up. And she told him what I said and hung up in his face. And and the phone rings right back. So she goes, "Hello?" He says it's really him. So me, frustrated, I go to the phone. I'm like, "Hello?" And when he started talking, I heard the voice and recognized the voice from seeing him on TV. And I was like, "Oh, snap, it really is him." And then he was like, "I want you to come work with us." And I said, "Okay, where you want me to go to?" He gives me the address. It's the address that I know where they have a house in the neighborhood that some of my friends lived in. And I go to the house, and there's everybody. There's, you know, Birdman, Slim, Lil Wayne, like everybody's there. And I'm like, man, I'm finally here at this point. But, Lil Wayne, I met Lil Wayne when he was 8, and he was a star then. Like, he was, he didn't have the records and stuff, and he was just starting his career, but he always stood out. And uh as we grew together, once we started working together, there was a certain trust, and a certain uh in one of the songs that we did, he says a lyric. He says, said this beat so soulful is like it got pork chops and yams on it. When I first heard it, I was like, damn, homie, look at the hand, homie. 100 grand on it. I'm about to put my man on it. For this grade A paper, we study buddies. We cram on it. So like that was our relationship. Like we both had impeccable work ethic, which, you know, is also something that Donald and I did. We work, and with purpose. So when it came to working with him, with Wayne, he was already that kind of worker and, you know, and really serious about his craft and would not shy away from any style of music. He could rap on anything, and that's what I tell rappers today who say they can't rap on certain beats. I'm like, you're a rapper. You should be able to rap on anything, or a singer should be able to sing anything, whether you like it or not. That doesn't have anything. It's not about taste. It's about being able to do what you do. You know, a musician should be able to play any style. Like they, any of those people should have worked on their craft enough to where they can get in any lane and still do their thing. You know, and that's one of the things that uh, um, I don't know if you can necessarily teach that. Like that's something that's just a innate desire to be great and to have just have the ability to, you know, show your skills and your craft and your dedication to your craft in any lane or capacity of music.
You know, I've decided, and it's a long interview for me. Okay, I do
Uh,
it this long, and I'm telling you why. I'm enthralled by the conversation. This could be an MBA course or a doctorate course at Harvard University. uh, I mean, the knowledge of taking a career, how a career gets going, how respect for the two of you guys. I mean, it is off the charts here, and or it's on the charts, I'd rather say. You know, it's that's Sandra. If you're still on, Sandra, I got to really thank you because this is, and we didn't get into probably half of what we could talk about, if not 10%. But I really am enjoying this. I think we're going to make the, if you don't mind, a part one, and then let's talk again. And I actually see almost because you're both wise men, you're smart men about life, and you're smart men about your craft and professionalism. You know, you're talking real talk. You know, I quoted Oprah Winfrey says, you know, anybody can get what they want in this country, in America. I guess we're very blessed, right? If you work for it. And it does take, you know, time, effort, sacrifice, right? I mean, you know, to be an entertainer, you know, you give up a lot of potential of maybe even a whole relationships in your life and so on. You know, it's a real dedication. You two really got it. Let's say, is there anything else you'd like to say at this moment, and then we'll speak again.
Can I jump in for a minute? Because I want him to list the artists that he's produced, co-written with, like co-writing with Drake and producing with T.I. and J.Lo and so on. Just run down some of that in terms of your credentials real quick, just to indicate who you've worked with. And then, you know, just I'll let him know the name of the band, the Spanglish band that you have. So at least we can get that into this part of the session.
okay, yeah. So I've worked with Lil Wayne, of course, Birdman, Drake, Nicki Minaj, J-Lo, Usher. I worked on a Jay-Z record, Eminem and Wayne. Yeah, who am I forgetting? 2 Chainz, Bobby Valentino, and now um, the new stuff that's out. The name of my band is Bali ULB, VALEULB, and our new single "Boom Boom" just went #1 on iTunes, #1 and 2 on iTunes charts in Spain last week, and that record is called "Boom Boom." The video is out, and the Art of Passion, which is a project that I was blessed to be a part of with Donald, that's out. The multiverse music song Art of Passion is out, so go stream that as well. And what am I missing, D?
I don't know, you're doing so much. We also have some hip hop stuff that we're working on. Uh, well, he told me I did a good job as a rapper, so I was happy to hear that because he knows. But it's dealing with the culture of New Orleans and other projects that we have. The Magic Touch that we worked on, which I mentioned earlier,
Yep.
and we're putting again. Diesel doesn't know this, but we're putting together a concert almost in the festival format on Long Island, New York, on September 13th and 14th. So we'll be performing some of that and some music from what we call omniverse music that comes out of the soul of the people as well as the quantum universe. So we're going to be presenting so many different styles of music. We did it at a place called Town Hall on January 11th.
That
So
Town
now
Hall
we're gonna,
Manhattan?
yeah, we did the omniverse music at Town Hall in New York and Manhattan, right? And we're going to be in at the Borghese Winery in September, putting on a similar show, but even bigger than what we did at a Town Hall with more incredible guest artists, displaying the history of music and showing how we have used the history of music to create a new way to play jazz by mixing all of these different knowledge of all of these different styles of music into a consolidated form.
We got do me a favor, stay on a moment because I do want to mention you see that Pause the World for Peace behind me, and the peace we do the World Peace Day concerts that take over Times Square on September 21st. Let's take a moment and then talk about that after this right now. I'm going to ask you two both one last question, okay, at this moment, and I really thank you both. What does peace mean to you? I'm going to let the youngster go first. What's peace for you, brother?
All right. To me, so I'll start by saying I've been married a few times and divorced a few times. So there's some comic relief, but peace is peace for me is tantamount and the probably the most important thing to me in my life, like peace in my own life, like peace in my personal life, as well as peace amongst people. Because if we don't have peace, we become really low vibrational. Things are disarray. You can't focus. Just turmoil, and the harmony of humanity can't exist without peace. It's if there's no peace, it's gonna be dissonant, and that's a certain type of harmony. Um, but harmonious harmony can't exist without peace, and that's to me the strongest form of being able to create. Creating in dissension and discord is really difficult. And in order to have a clear head, have a clear creative flow, for me at least, I have to have peace. So that's what it is to me.
Okay, well, we're going to finish this off. And music is the language of the world. they all have thoughts in that regard as well. All right, Chief.
Oh,
Peace for
my
you.
thought. Okay, well, we can start with.
Can't hear you. Sorry.
But you're muted again, D. You're
Oh,
muted, D.
Am I back?
you're back.
There you go.
Okay. On that question, we can start with my idea that peace and love are synonyms. So, peace starts with love, and the first thing we have to do is want the same things for everyone walking the planet that we want for ourselves, and that will create peace. We have to acknowledge each other for our accomplishments, and we have to try to help each other elevate each other at every turn. We have to want that every person in the world has enough to eat, a place to stay, and the ability to pursue the talents that are gifted to them. And I think once we get to these basic ideas, we will find peace. If another person is better at something, it's okay, because I'm not going to play running back for the Saints. So they got Alvin Kamara. So there's things that we have to accept. But if we can learn to do that with things that we feel, oh, I need to be better than this person. Competition is the worst thing in terms of competition in life, in the scope of life. You know, if it's not done the right way, not in a competitive fashion, but I was inspired passion. Because even if I was a racer in a race, and the guy was always running faster than me, I wouldn't be angry. I'd be, well, at least I'm in the 100-yard dash. That means I'm fast. And the person who was running faster than me, I would be inspired to get to my highest level. And maybe my highest level might beat him. And that would just be that day. With anybody who was in the Olympics, they're already great. Anybody who played football, that means you have a lot of talent and you had enough tenacity, as you put it, to weather the storm and learn everything to be on that football field. And that's hard enough in itself. Once we get to that and being comfortable in our own skin and spreading the love of, I want everybody to have the same thing in terms of having food and a place to stay, then we'll be a successful society, and we'll have achieved this level of Shangri-La, or this level of what the Quran teaches, or this level of what the Bible teaches, or just the general lesson. I'm going to go to quantum physics now. The general lesson of what always has to happen in the universe, and that is everything will in the universe in a natural state will find its logical conclusion. Logic will never be defied in the natural world. You can look at trees when they blow in the wind, they move a certain way. You can look at all the things that happen with planets. The scientists can map that out and tell you what's going on, and they're always gonna move to the next. When you put your finger in a puddle of water, you're gonna see the ripples, and you know that they're moving naturally by all the things around it. So we need to get human beings need to be natural and find love in their heart. Love will take away anything bad. Sorry for being so long.
No, it's all good. I couldn't agree. That's why both of you actually are, in my mind, so successful, and why I see that this could be a brilliant opportunity for people to hear from people that are compassionate to those that are around them. it's a big honor for me. I learned a lot. Actually, I'm Reverend Paul Slackus. I'm an interfaith, all faith spiritual minister, but I'm going to say a nice Jewish word because I'm a nice Jewish boy too, religious wise. But I'm a Homo sapien. That's where I go first. We're all brothers and sisters, or anything. I'm a John Lennonist actually. So we're all in it together. Is be shared is a Jewish word, a Yiddish word that says it's meant to be, should be. It's almost a quantum physics word, I would say. Things they come around amazingly enough, right? Mr. Darius there didn't stop calling people, and all the next thing he knows, he's getting the calls, right? But that was because you were kind and loving to him. All right, listen, I learned a lot. This was magnificent. I'm telling you, this might be the longest interview. I've done 6,500 interviews. All right, Sandra, you're big trouble for me. All right, so Sandra, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
It was a
Thank
real
you,
joy.
Paul.
All right, guys, thank you.
Thank you.